Whatever, dude.
Oh, I gotta pee. Hand me that empty bottle, Stan.
What? Just pull over.
Stan, you need to learn some things about being a man. Give me that bottle. There's a reason God made our penises like boys. Hold the wheel, Stan. When you boys start driving, you're gonna need to learn to do this too.
Dad, we're gonna crash!
Okay, so right there we can see the officer in the back corner of the video, and he has drifted hard. We're going to let this play out a little bit more. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Keith Whiddon. I'm a criminal defense lawyer in Monroe, Louisiana, and today we are going to break down Randy's DUI in South Park. I'm going to pretend that I'm the officer, and I'm going to point out every cue or clue that I believe an officer would note in his or her report when making a DWI case, DWI stop, DUI, DWI case or stop. Specific to Randy's case in the South Park clip that we're going to watch today. Fun fact, I have been through the same standardized field sobriety testing training that every officer that makes a DWI or DUI arrest is required to take before they can go out there and make the arrest. So I had that same certification from the National Highway and Traffic Safety Administration, received it in Atlanta from a drug recognition expert and instructor for that matter, who is also a standardized field sobriety testing instructor out in Atlanta by the name of Anthony Palacios. Received that earlier this year. So let's break down Randy's stop in South Park and point out all the cues or clues that an officer would use to say that Randy was impaired if the case went to trial. By the way, this would probably be a good time for me to inject that at least in Louisiana, a lot of people ask, hey, what's the difference between a DWI and a DUI? Well, in Louisiana, there is no difference. In fact, in Louisiana, it's not even driving. It's operating while intoxicated is what the statute says. And operation of a motor vehicle is broader than driving. You can be in operation of a motor vehicle simply by having the keys in the ignition, the air turned on, the motor running. Things like that can put you in operation of a vehicle. And if the state can prove that you are, one, operating a motor vehicle, and two, intoxicated, whether that be by your field sobriety test, by the officer's observations, by the observations of a third party, or by a chemical test, you can be found guilty of operating while intoxicated in the state of Louisiana. Now, other states have other laws, and other states do define DWI and DUI differently. But in Louisiana, DWI, DUI, it's the same. And in fact, it is operating while intoxicated, not just driving.
Whatever, dude.
Oh, I gotta pee. Hand me that empty bottle, Stan.
What? Just pull over.
Stan, you need to learn some things about being a man. Give me that bottle. There's a reason God made our penises like Moses, boys. Hold the wheel, Stan. When you boys start driving, you're gonna need to learn to do this too.
Dad, we're gonna crash!
Okay, so right there we can see the officer in the back corner of the video, and he has drifted hard. We're going to let this play out a little bit more.
Try to concentrate. Just hold the damn wheel.
Dude, I think you're being followed.
Oh, yeah? Get off my ass, dickhole!
No, dude.
So right now I think this is a good spot to point out two driving indicators. Well, one is a driving indicator, and one we're going to expand upon. First of all, the weaving or drifting in and out of lane is going to come into play in Session 5, Page 7 of the February 2023 SFST manual, and we can see right here with problems maintaining proper lane position, weaving across the lane line. Now in the video, there was not a lane line, but it is pretty safe to assume that Randy would have drifted into the lane that would be reserved for the oncoming traffic. And I think that even though there is not a lane line, the officer would probably put this in his report if he was writing a fair, thorough, and complete report. Also, swerving. The other thing that I would point out is abusive language. Now, abusive language comes into play whenever the officer is actually having personal contact with the driver of the vehicle. But I do want to point out to you, the viewer, that abusive language is another indicator of intoxication that an officer is looking for. So if the officer had approached Randy's vehicle and Randy had said something to that same effect, the officer could write in his report, and he would write in his report if he was writing a fair, thorough, and complete report, that Randy used abusive language. So doesn't exactly apply in Randy's case exactly, but I did want to point it out for you, the viewer, that it is an indicator of intoxication in the SFST manual. So Randy realizes the police. He pulls over immediately and pulls over well.
Warm.
Everybody just stay calm. I can handle this, no problem. I know how to deal.
Okay, so we saw Randy immediately throw in a piece of chewing gum. So if we stay in Session 6, the personal contact portion of the SFST manual, we go to Session 6, page 7, and we see that a cover-up odor is also an indicator of intoxication, or a cue or a clue that an officer could note in his or her report as an indicator of intoxication. The officer gave a very clear instruction, and here is Randy's response.
What seems to be the officer problem?
This is, in my mind, a combination of problems, but let's look and see what the NHTSA manual says about them and how I would link them back if I were the arresting officer. So if we look at Session 6, page 6, what seems to be the officer problem? That is, number one, an inconsistent response because Randy has failed to follow the instructions, failed to produce a license, registration, anything like that. But also it is an unusual statement because he gets it completely backwards. So what seems to be the problem, officer? What seems to be the officer problem? So inconsistent and unusual. 2 pops right there in the personal contact section, up to 3 right now, counting the cover-up odor.
Sir, why don't you step out of the car for me?
Okay.
So the officer has already realized through personal contact that I need to now move into the field sobriety testing portion of my stop. That doesn't necessarily mean that the Session 6 indicators of intoxication by personal contact stop, and in fact, we're about to see another indicator of intoxication. Number one, his pants are undone. There is a part in Session 6 that talks about soiled clothing. Randy's clothes are not soiled, but they are undone. And if I were the officer, I would say that this is an unusual action. And an unusual action is right here in Session 6, page 5, under what does the officer see?
Sir, I'm going to give you a sobriety test.
Okay, no problem. Easy.
Stand over here, please. Right there. All right, now I want you to hold your arms out at your sides.
There. You did it. See? No problem.
Touch your finger to your nose.
So, fun fact, this is actually not one of the standardized field sobriety tests. The standardized field sobriety test for indicators of alcohol intoxication that are talked about in the SFST manual is typically confined to 3 tests. In fact, those 3 tests are taught in that same manual that we're looking at now. Those are the horizontal gaze nystagmus test, what a lot of people think is the eye test. That is the walk and turn test. Walk 9 steps down a straight line, walk 9 heel-toe steps back down a straight line, and then the 1-leg stand test where you stand on 1 leg and you count out loud, 1001, 1002, 1003 until the officer tells you to stop. This is the finger to nose test, and that is a test that is typically reserved for drugged driving, not drunk. And the people who are trained to administer that finger to nose test don't even get that test until the drug recognition expert school or the 2-day drug recognition expert preschool. But for the purpose of the cartoon, I'm sure that having someone do a finger to nose test is more entertaining.
Do what?
Touch your finger to your nose.
Well, come on, that's impossible.
Just bring one hand to your nose like this.
Okay. Okay, hang on. Okay. Hang on. Hold on. Oh, hang on.
Dude, what the hell is he doing? I think his pants are falling down.
And so this is actually a myriad of problems. It's inability to follow instructions. It's appearing intoxicated. It is failure to maintain balance. So there are 3 or 4 problems there that we could go into other sessions and say, okay, if this were the correct field sobriety test, then we could say, okay, he's unable to maintain balance, unable to follow directions, etc. And then one thing that we skipped is whenever the officer got to the car, he did not specifically say this, but we know that Randy had at least 2 beer bottles in that car. And seeing beer bottles is also an indicator of intoxication that an officer is trained to look for. In session 6, page 5, what do you see? Alcohol containers. So it's incredibly likely that an officer, even if he didn't see them whenever he first came into contact with Randy, saw it later whenever he had to go to the car and get the kids out of the car so that way they could get to the police station or back home.
What'd I do?
That also could be considered abusive language, kind of iffy, but I wouldn't be surprised if an officer were to put in his or her report that acting that way was abusive or just otherwise inconsistent.
Keep blowing. Keep blowing. Keep blowing.
And now at the very end of the video, we can look back at session 6 one more time for one more indicator of intoxication, even though it is at the police station. It is again, session 6, page 5. What do you see? Soiled clothing. That can be vomit, urine, food stains even. All those things make for soiled clothing for an officer in a DWI stop. So let's go ahead and watch this clip out because it wouldn't be right if we didn't.
Jesus.
Kids are from karate practice, and Cartman,
I'd say that your dad racks a discipline.
it should be known that this was probably one of the most controversial episodes of South Park ever. If you go back and watch the entire episode and then look at Wikipedia, this got the show almost canceled, to the point where this episode was not included, I believe, on DVD box sets. It wasn't aired in other countries. So this is a very interesting episode, but you shouldn't watch it if you get your feelings hurt easily. But that wraps up my breakdown analysis of Randy's DUI in that episode of South Park. If you have other episodes of other TV shows that you want me to analyze, break down, talk about, and how they apply to criminal law, make sure you drop that in the comments. If I missed something, hey, let me know down in the comments that, hey, you missed this indicator of intoxication. I can't believe you did that. Go ahead and drop it down there. And stay tuned for our next Attorney React video. Thank you for sticking around until the end of this video. If you found the information in the video helpful or informative or entertaining, do me a favor. Click the subscribe button and ring the bell notification so you can be a part of the first 1,000 subscribers to this channel, and you'll get notified every time we post a new video, podcast, or other information that you may find helpful. If you have questions about a criminal case and you want to talk to me, then scan the QR code over here or check the link in the bio below. And if you have questions about an expungement, need an expungement for an old case, scan this QR code over here or use the link that's in the bio below. And if you want to watch another video that I've made, just click this one right here.